So we're speaking about the weather again. I swear we speak more about the weather on this channel right now than the actual football. That's making more headlines anyway, definitely at the moment. We're talking about the heat this time. We're speaking about the thunderstorms, the lightning rules in football. But now we're talking about the heat over in the United States. Of course, right now, the Club World Cup is on. This time next year, the World Cup, the FIFA World Cup, is going to be on primarily in the United States. Of course, Canada and Mexico chipping in as well, but I think from the quarterfinal stage, it's 100% USA, and even up to that point, vast majority of the games will be played in the United States. Now, not only has the lightning been causing havoc, but also the heat as well. Enzo Maresca said that training was impossible in the conditions right now in the United States, and indeed, over in the Northeast, my friends up there, Phil, if you're watching, which I seriously doubt, because you're not really that much into soccer as you call it, but I know some of my friends up in New York and places like that have been really struggling recently. I mean, it's been hot here in the UK this last week or so, but it's been unbelievably sweltering over in the northeast of the USA. Over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, over 38 degrees Celsius. It's been just downright oppressive. And of course, there is that old phrase, only mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. But I don't think England would do too well if they do reach the final of the World Cup in those kinds of conditions, because it's just plain too hot. And some people have been calling on FIFA to actually move the kickoff time of the World Cup final to 9 a.m. local time, to the morning. Now, that might sound a bit odd. Normally, these are played pretty late on, but doing it in the evening brings its own issues as well, not only with the humidity, but also potential thunderstorms as well. And the MetLife Stadium, where this is going to be hosted, has no roof. The World Cup final is going to be hosted in the venue that has no roof. It's going to be exposed to the elements. So what's going to happen? Well, let's get into this, guys. I got a full article here on thefootballchronicle.com because FIFA have not confirmed what time the World Cup final is going to be kicking off, but we may well get a bit of a preview of that for the final of the Club World Cup this year. What could happen? And honestly, it's not looking too amazing. There's a big risk associated with that. I'll explain why here for you guys today. So intense summer conditions are gripping part of the US during this year's Club World Cup, and they have led to an academic expert calling on FIFA to consider holding the 2026 Men's World Cup final at 9 a.m. local time. For reference, that is 2 p.m. here in the UK and 3 p.m. for much of Europe. Professor Mike Tipton, an environmental psychologist at the University of Portsmouth who advises Team GB Athletics, told BBC Sport that if temperatures next year mirror current extremes, early morning kickoffs could be the safest option. He said, and I quote, "From a thermal psychological perspective, for both health and performance reasons, I'd be looking to start the game as early as possible," he said. "If you continue in conditions when the rational scientific data says stop, the organisers are taking on a fair amount of responsibility." End quote. The MetLife Stadium in New Jersey, set to host 8 matches during the tournament, including the final, has no roof and limited shade. In June, temperatures in nearby New York City reached 39 degrees Celsius. At present, FIFA has not confirmed the kickoff times for the 2026 fixtures. Those sources have told the BBC that matches on the US East Coast will likely begin at noon, 3 p.m, 6 p.m, and 9 p.m. European broadcast slots are a major influence on scheduling decisions. Yeah, so for those that don't know as well, instead of having 3 games potentially kicking off per day, there's going to be 4 games per day pretty much throughout the groups and some of the knockout stages as well, just to get all those matches in there. Of course, this is an expanded World Cup. This is the first time the World Cup will have 48 teams instead of 32. But as the Players Union, FIFPro, warns of increasing concerns over extreme heat, it is advocating that health and safety outweigh commercial demands. From a health and safety perspective, this is something that must take priority over commercial interests, said FIFPro's policy lead, Alexander Bielfeld. Probably saying that guy's last name wrong, I do apologise. The union believes that matches should be rescheduled once the wet bulb globe temperature WBGT, which combines heat and humidity, exceeds 32 degrees Celsius. It's roughly what the feels like temperature is called if you ever see that on your other forecast. It's not how hot it is, it's also the humidity in there as well to give an overall picture of what it actually feels like to be out in those conditions. FIFA currently mandates short water breaks at that point, but FIFPro instead recommends delaying matches entirely at that threshold and starting cooling measures once WBGT hits 28 degrees Celsius. Chelsea's recent Club World Cup match in Philadelphia was played in a heat index of 45 degrees Celsius due to the combination of 37 degrees heat and 45% humidity. It was impossible, said Enzo Maresca, of training in such conditions. Extreme weather has also forced match suspension. 6 games at the Club World Cup were halted mid-play due to thunderstorms. In Charlotte, Maresca's Chelsea side had their match paused for over 2 hours, and he later questioned whether the US was the ideal host. Only 5 of the 16 stadiums picked for the 2026 World Cup have roofs. Queen's University Belfast researchers warned earlier this year that 14 of those venues could record temperatures at potentially unsafe levels for both players and fans. Matches hosted in the likes of Miami, Dallas, Monterrey, Kansas City were also flagged as especially risky if played in the afternoon. BBC weather forecaster Simon King outlined that climate change is heightening the chances of extreme weather. Comparing 2026 to previous tournaments, he noted, in 1994, temperatures in Florida and Texas exceeded 38 degrees Celsius. Qatar summer saw 40 to 45 degrees Celsius. During the recent US heatwave, the heat index in New York felt close to 50 degrees Celsius. FIFA insists that protecting players, officials and fans remains a top priority. The federation is working with medical teams and will include built-in water breaks, allow 5 substitutions with a 6th in extra time, recommend empty 1-litre bottles and share heat index guidance with supporters. FIFA also highlighted that its expanded 48-team tournament will see each squad given a minimum of 3 days in between matches. Despite the government body's reassurances, scrutiny over the schedule and venue choices is expected to rise, especially as the weather continues to alter the playing field. I mean, let's be real here, guys. FIFA are trying to cover themselves on this one, but will they actually do something to help the players out by actually suspending games like they are saying FIFA Pro? Is that appropriate for them to do that? I'll let you have your say on that in the comments below, but I would be absolutely shocked if FIFA actually suspend games if they get to 32 degrees heat index. That is actually not that high for that part of the world at that time of the year. If they did that, there'd be so many games suspended and it'd just play havoc with the TV schedules, which I know is not the most important thing. I'm not saying it is, but you bet your bottom dollar that FIFA would probably say that that is the most important thing. How bad would it look if all their games were kicking off 3-4 hours too late? Like, if they're getting suspended for being too hot for a 12 p.m. kickoff, when's it going to get cool enough to actually play? It could well take until like 7 p.m., 9 p.m. You know, if they really want to do something about it, just have the matches being kicked off either in the late evening when it's slightly cooler or early morning. You know, that is probably the most sensible way to do it. But because of the TV schedules, because they want to dominate the airwaves across the world when it comes to these broadcasts, I would be absolutely stunned if they do anything about it. Will the players do anything about it? We might see the odd action here and there and stuff like that, the odd protest here and there, but I don't think they'll do anything significant, because what are they going to do? Just not play for their country? The backlash of that would be huge on them as well. So yeah, it's a really tricky situation. Is the US an appropriate host of the World Cup? We saw over 30 years ago that it was absolutely baking hot in 1994. You know, it's maybe not the most sensible option, but that, again, that's FIFA. We went to Qatar before. We're going to Saudi Arabia in the future. Hell, we're going to Spain and Portugal and Morocco in 4 years' time, or 5 years' time, I should say, in 2030. That's going to be even hotter. What's it going to be like in Casablanca and Marrakesh, even Madrid, Seville? That time of year is absolutely sweltering. Well over 40 degrees is very common in that part of the world in June and July. So yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, guys. I'm sure you got plenty of them. Like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to see more, and have a fantastic day wherever in the world today, and we'll see you very soon.